I don't think that laying down, giving up, and feeling helpless is going to change anything. And I think that you have to be able to stand up in the face of injustice, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And so that's what I do every day.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a physician, mom, life coach, musician, author, publisher, and I'm passionate about helping others reclaim their stories and build their most beautiful life. I'm so excited today to have an inspiring guest on the show who has done just that, and she is using her voice and experience to help others as well. Maimah Karmo is the founder of the Tigerlily Foundation, best-selling author, speaker, coach, and cancer survivor. Diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer at the age of 32, Maimah turned her greatest challenge into inspiration to helping ensure healthcare equity and access for others. Maimah has shared her insights and experience on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, The Today Show, and in her book, Fearless, Awakening to My Life's Purpose Through Breast Cancer. And we are so excited to have her here today on Talks with Dr. Shafer to share her inspiring story and how she is working to make a difference in the lives of women like herself through her work and advocacy. Having escaped from her native country of Liberia alone at 15 years old, Maimah is the definition of a warrior. She survived 3 wars, being held at gunpoint and being hit by lightning. Then at 32, she was diagnosed with an aggressive breast cancer after fighting for the diagnosis itself, and then founded Tigerlily Foundation while undergoing chemotherapy and also taking care of her young daughter. Tigerlily Foundation is a national 501c3 nonprofit women's health and oncology organization that is dedicated to empowering young women before, during, and after their cancer diagnosis. Maimah is here today to share more about her story, the currently challenging political climate, and how it affects ongoing research and care for women with breast cancer, as well as how we can all get involved in helping her cause. Maimah, thank you so much for being on the show. Let's get into it.
The funding issues that the new administration has caused are impacting women and women who do work that support vulnerable populations, those who are, BIPOC, brown or black, and indigenous, and people who are in communities that are vulnerable and facing disparities and have barriers. Like in that, it's one of the things that's. I was talking to someone today. I was at an event in New York, and they're like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm okay now," in the sense that I got my head around it after 9 months or 10 months. But I was like, this, and this is not about politics. It's about a person, and what's happening is impacting everything that I am. It's not just my work. I am a Black woman and a first generation refugee, and I support cancer patients and women who are disadvantaged. We support all women of all colors, however, at the same time, we focus on those who have high disparities, who are younger women. I was once a woman who was younger at 32 years old, fighting my own a tumor, and the policies in place didn't support me getting mammography, wouldn't cover it, and I was dismissed. So that was a disparity. Women who are metastatic, who are younger, have even more disparities at worse. Not, I was early stage, thank God, and then there are women who are Black and brown who have less support and treatment options. So I feel like the things that the administration's against, it doesn't make any sense. It's not just about people who look like me. It's people. Good science impacts all people. So, to your question, we have been impacted. However, I realized I was made for this. I've made for this. I mean, I've survived many a thing, being a refugee, surviving 3 wars, being held at gunpoint, being hit by lightning. I've been through a lot of cancer. Like, I'm not gonna let something that is something like this impact the legacy that I'm trying to make and the patients that deserve access to care and the right treatments and the right support and heart-centered connection at the right times during their cancer journey. So,
How does that feel to you when you are a survivor of traumatic events that you had no control over, events that maybe in your mind you could think, this was out of my hands, this was a war based on things that had nothing to do with me, or this was someone making a really horrible, selfish decision, putting me at gunpoint. This was cancer, right? That's just something that happened to my body. But then when we see people who are not under duress of war, they don't have cancer, their bodies are not being riddled with that, right? They don't have that challenge, and they're making choices that strip away the rights of women and that also make it harder for everyone who's trying to do that research, provide that care, protect the rights of women who need this treatment. How do you feel when you reckon with that versus all those other traumas that you've experienced in your life?
To be honest, it's been hard to get my head around it. When I came to this country, I came to America as the capital of the free world. You hear about coming here as a melting pot and for opportunity and to belong, because that's what you read about: freedom and justice and equality. And the thing that's broken my heart, I mean, I've experienced things over the past, 20 plus years living here as young child and young woman and growing into adulthood, that show me that it's not all roses and daisies and flowers. However, this year has been so blatantly painful that people are in power who openly believe that people like myself in my skin that I'm in, and women, people who are vulnerable and disadvantaged, should not have the right to life. Because by stripping away their healthcare rights, stripping away their ways to make money, stripping away their voice, stripping away their humanity, they're being erased, right? And if they speak up, they could be attacked in some way, and it's revolting, it's shocking, and it's terrifying. I came here when we escaped the wars. I thought, okay, we're in America now. It's different. I can walk on the streets. I can say things. And, I wasn't out doing crazy things, but you feel like you're free, you're safe. And for the first time this year, I did not feel safe in this country, didn't feel safe in my black skin. And, I've talked to people who are, like especially white men, and those, so I'm on a lot of leadership and CEO calls, and I'm at events and things like that. And one time this white man said, we're talking about this crisis and how we're going to get through the healthcare issues and things patients are facing. And he's like, we're going to just put our heads down and just get the work done and just get through this. And I said, I can't put my black head down. I can't come out of my skin. I cannot just put my head down. And the people who I've given my life commitment to serving, to supporting, because they don't have a voice. And I can't just pretend that I don't have the privilege of just not looking like me to be able to get through this. I don't want to not look like me. I think God put me here for a reason in the skin that I'm in, the things that I've been through that have been challenges, like the war. I mean, my parents went back to their wars would happen. There'd be a war and they would escape, and then they would go back, and I would ask, why would you go back into a place where you almost lost your life? And they would say there are people who are there who didn't have the privilege of escaping, didn't have the money to escape. We did. Now that things are getting better, we want to go back and help those people. So that's kind of how I'm wired. And so even if I were somebody of a different level of privilege, I would use that in a way that's for power. So in this, even though things have been hard for people like myself who represent all the things that they're trying to eradicate, I still use my life as a privilege. I am alive. 20 years past a really aggressive diagnosis. I am thriving. I have a voice. And I realize that I tell people my life's my legacy. And that means using every moment that that I'm alive to to give others the blessings that I've had. My daughter turned 23 this year, and she was 3 when I was diagnosed, and through my work, I can imagine things to help people that need support. I can hear from patients and discuss what their needs are and create programs to help them. And that's what I have to do. And nobody said life was going to be easy. Nobody planned for this year, of course, and the next 3. But I don't think that laying down, giving up, and being feeling helpless is going to change anything. And I think that you have to be able to stand up in the face of injustice, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And so that's what I do every day. But it has been a mentally challenging year to realize, even in the face of people looking at me, and you can tell people who don't want you around, right? And you can tell what they say to you, and the funding stopped in certain ways. Funding was impacted, um, but we keep your head up, and I stay true to my morals and my values and my commitment to God and my patients, and we're doing fine. We're moving forward.
I appreciate you sharing that experience. And when I heard you speak about your family and how they went back into the war-torn area, and you question that, why would you do that? You know, you're past this moment. You could just rebuild and move on somewhere else. And they went back. The feeling I have is that that's what you've done with breast cancer. That could have easily been a chapter of your life that you closed and you said, this is too traumatic. I don't want to go back there. I've been through enough. But instead, you went back into it to help other people, which is just phenomenal. And I imagine sometimes re-traumatizing as well.
Every day it is. I tell my story every day, and when I tell it, I speak from my heart. I don't just tell it. It's not just a story. It's my life. I want the audience hearing what I'm saying to imagine what it feels like to be in a body that's 31 years old, that finds a tumor on your own, that goes to a doctor and that's told that you're too young, you can't get a mammogram, the insurance won't cover it. You have to push for months and months to get a mammogram. You finally get one, it comes back clean. You know, they're like, "We told you so," and I'm like, "No." And then you are scared because it's growing, and you have a young child, and you want to live. And then finally, you get a biopsy after pushing for that, and they tell you it's triple negative breast cancer, which at the time had no targeted treatment. Um, and I feel like my life has been a series of having to go back into the war, into the fire. But I know that if I didn't do what I did, if I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't have helped people to see what this is like. It's not just pink ribbons and roses and walks and runs. We're in the middle of breast cancer awareness month, and everyone's like running all over the place, and there's pink, like cigarette lighters, and there's, you know, TKFC one year had pink buckets, and it's all these things, and I'm just like, people have no idea what cancer is like and how it destroys families and breaks hearts. And I do have to relive the things that I've been through every single time I tell my story. But if one person can hear what I'm saying and feel what I'm saying and know that they can do something that can change somebody else's experience or a diagnosis stage, whether getting maybe get diagnosed earlier or getting support or getting a resource, feeling like, okay, this person, Maimah, she's been through what I've been through. If she can do it, I can do it too. Like that's what I do every day. So in a way, it's traumatic, but also it's very healing to be able to have people that you connect with. A lot of my patients, when they meet me, I'm their anchor because I was, they were just diagnosed, and I was 5 years out, then I was 10 years out. And I only know one other person that I'm friends with that's 20 years off from triple negative breast cancer. And so many people see me as like, oh my God, she's done the thing. And even though, and although I've had the time to enjoy it and build something powerful, it's been very intentional, right? In terms of the time. So I don't see it just being 20 years. It's been like 100 years and 20 years of friendships, people that I've loved and gone to events with and built relationships with, and women who've come to us as a patient and, metastatic patient. And she had 2 years to live, and she lived because of the work that we did and things we got her involved in. She lived a beautiful life and made a legacy for herself in that 2 years. So it's time that is hard, and I cry when people I lose patience. At the same time, there's a joy of somebody that is, comes to you for refuge, and you dance together, you laugh together, and you have these beautiful friendships, and you go for walks together, and people tell you the most beautiful things as when they're vulnerable and when they're open hearted, which I am as well. And so those things are things you cannot quantify and you can't measure. And it's sometimes just worth the hard times, right? Because you look back and you made a difference in someone's life, in their children's lives, and for other people. And so that's what I find rewarding, giving someone hope, community, sisterhood, and empowerment, and the idea that their life is bigger than a cancer. It's bigger than what they can imagine, and helping them to get to that place.
It's such empowering work. And you mentioned your daughter. And I have 3 young girls, and I have so much emotion that bubbles up in me when I think about you having a 3-year-old and facing that challenge, and then going through all that time where you really had to fight. And you knew you had to fight, 1, because you're a young woman, 2, because of I imagine also the characteristics of the tumor, right? And imaging, of course, is different now than then. But also, as you have discussed, the disparities and how healthcare is delivered to women who are Black, women who are Hispanic. We know that there are disparities in healthcare. And knowing your daughter is going through now 20 years on the timeline, right? Things have changed, things have evolved. Our scanning technologies are better. Hopefully our diagnostic practice is better, but nonetheless, having had to fight tooth and nail to stay alive for her, as you're preparing her as a young woman, she's 23 years old now, to advocate for herself in this world as a woman and as a Black woman. What are the things that you get really just serious with her about, teaching her, that you've learned on your journey that you want her to take forward with her?
With the way I parent her, I do talk, but I believe that you can tell your children all you want what to do, but they do what you do and they do who you are. And
Yeah.
so I took her to, when I was diagnosed, people were like, don't tell her you have cancer. Sat her
Mm,
down. I said to her, Mommy lost her hair. Remember, I said, I'm going to have surgery. Why? I have a boo boo. They're going to remove it. And then when I
mm,
had chemotherapy, we sat down on the floor and I showed her my bald head, and I said, it's going to be like Caillou when my wig comes off. Remember this? She said, Caillou is the boy. I said, well, I had to have this medicine to help my cancer to go away. This boo boo gets smaller and or whatever and disappear. And there's this cartoon character named Caillou. So I told her like, I have my hair is like Caillou, and she's like, I don't want you to look like
yeah.
Caillou. And so I said, wig off, and she started screaming, running around like, "Oh my god!" And then she was scared. She was like, "What happened to your? What happened to you?" And then I was like, "Come and smell me." And when I began going to people's homes, people would come to me and say, "My cousin has cancer. Can you talk to her?" My sister, I go to their homes and take her with me. And as
Mm,
I was building it, we were going to like strip malls and handing out stuff for our 5K, or going to the local restaurant and saying, "Can we do a fundraiser here?" When I had to go to a conference, I leave work, pick her up from school, put on a cute little dress, and we go to the conference together. I get her a shawl because she would fall asleep at some point while people are talking, and then I go up on the stage to talk. She come with me and hold my dress, and so she's seen what dedication looks like and commitment looks like. She's seen people have hope. People look at me like sideways, and then go at some point go, okay, she's and she knows her stuff. She's seen people that
mm,
who were in treatment who needed support, that we took on meals and resources and clothing, and then she's seen them get better, and she's seen them recur, and she's seen them as they're in transition. Like I have had friends who have been dying, and they would say, when I'm at that point, I want you to be here. So I go to be with them. And one incident that was like, she was with me when a friend I had known who I'd been helping for a while recurred, and she was like, told her husband at the end, Maimah needs to be here with me. I want her to be here. And so I went to her house and I sat with her for days. And her kids were outside playing, but they come in the house and play on the floor with each other. She was playing with her kids. And at one point I did leave and she passed the next day. And this has happened over the past 19 years. She's seen us, me raise money when I had no money. She's seen when I had nothing and I had to work extra jobs to raise money for the foundation. And so I feel like her her embodiment is one of deep compassion for other people. I feel like she is so grounded in who she is and resolute in that, because she's seen what I've done with nothing, and now we're one of the largest breast cancer. We're not like $100 million, but we are one of the most prominent ones in the country and nationwide and globally. It's growing. Um, and she's seen what an idea can do. Having an idea, having faith, and having vision, and having tenacity, despite when you're told no. To me, no means not right now, or it means whatever. Like I don't accept that. So um, I teach her by doing. And so I'm really proud of her because there are times, especially this past year, when things were really, really tough with all the cuts and, you know, don't say you're a Black woman helping other Black women who are vulnerable or brown women, and don't discuss words like barrier and vulnerable. And I was just like, I've worked too hard for 19 years to be at this point to be like, am I going to have to, like, are we going to make it through this? And she's like, Mommy, do you believe? She said, I believe for you. And she said, I remember you've been building this all your life, all your adult life. And she says, I know it's hard, but I know that you're going to get through this. We'll get through this together. And so it's interesting that she's always been my rock, but seeing her as an adult telling me what I've told to her, like, you got this, and you told me about vision and faith and to believe in yourself, it's a beautiful thing. So even, she has had some things pop up with her own health, and we've gone through things together. We've been advocating where I'm holding her hand, getting her through things, and then she's advocating for herself in some ways with her own doctor appointment. So it's just a beautiful journey of raising a child in the way they should grow up, as say in the Bible, because you're doing the things, and then they reflect to you what you taught them, and they become your guide and she's my rock when I need that. And now she works for me as well. So we're in this together, and she's incredible. She just really is everything that I dreamt about and dreamt for and more. Most importantly, she is the sweetest, sweetest soul, and she's kind and loving, and she's the best I could have imagined. So she wants to become a doctor and help patients who have people who have unseen illnesses and have mental health and things that people don't talk about. And so I always ask her, I said, that's going to be hard for you to do that because it's a lot to deal with people with, mental health and especially with health issues as well. And she goes, well, you did it. And you were going through it. And I said, touche. So to answer the question, long answer to a short question, I teach by walking the walk and by showing up. And I bring her with me. I brought her with me the whole time. And she's still with me side by side. We're moving through this together and growing together.
That's so beautiful. It's wonderful to see what they've caught from you. You tried to teach them, but as you started off with, they're going to catch so much more than they're going to take from what you deliberately say. They're going to catch it from what you model and live in
And
that
also,
embodiment.
and I taught her to have fun. Like, we have fun. We don't just like,
Mm.
cancer's shitty, it's scary, it's awful, it's all these things, but this is our life in this moment. Like, when you and I finish this conversation, it'll be done. It'll be on a recording, but it'll be done. So, like, I've always impressed upon her, like, to be in the moment and to have fun. And so
Mm.
as we look back, it's not like, we've been doing this hard thing the whole time. It's been having fun, having people over, having parties. I have patients come by here who I'm close with, and they come for the weekend. And we take retreats together, and we send presents, and we text, and we plan events where we dance and we laugh and do yoga. And so, this is life, right? It doesn't always give you what you want, but you have to take from it what you deserve and what you need. And so we just, it's like an orange, you got to squeeze the juice out of it, right? And so we
Yeah.
squeeze the best parts out of it, and the parts that are hard, we get through them together. And, but it's living with intention is what is really important. Whether it's cancer or not, is living deliberately and making that time matter.
That is what matters. The quality over the quantity matters so much. And I think we do often try to shield our children and young people from some realities that robs them of those lessons. And so when we actually take our kids to nursing homes to read with people, right? To help one with their loneliness, but also for children to spend that time to learn those lessons, to volunteer. They learn so many things from being around the other end of the spectrum of age, the things that they can teach us when we have family members that are going through something that's really tough, allowing our kids in safe ways and age appropriate ways to experience that so that they're not as fearful of death and of these life challenges because they're going to happen to all of us at some point in time.
I think a lot of kids nowadays can't cope with life because you're not exposed to life. They spend their time on TV, on the computer, or on their phones. And so they're not exposed to life. They go to school and they're on their phones 24/7, and they don't do things in the world like we do, and they're shielded from things that are difficult. And so when things happen in the world, they're just overwhelmed. They cannot cope. And I feel like with when you asked me earlier about the wars and things that I've been through with my family, those things were traumatic, but they prepare me for life. They prepare me for like fact that things won't always go the way I want them to go. But the fact that you will face tough things, you will lose things that are important to you. But what's most important is your life and your health. You face with the fact that people might not be there that you expect to be there for you when you have cancer, but that's what it is. You figure it out, and you may lose a body part or ability to have children, or you may lose something that you felt was very, very dear. Um, but you one of my friends had a quote that I used to despise. She would say, "You get what you get, and you don't make a fit." And I'm like, "That's don't tell your child that. It's not nice." So I would kind of say that for me, my way of putting that was like things do happen, and you figure out how to use that challenge as a gift. That's how I would phrase it. So I would think about if a child goes through a challenge and you figure out how to use that challenge for a catalyst, maybe not a gift, but a catalyst to growth, to empowerment, to helping someone else have a better experience than what you may have had. That's what life's about. And so I really think that people need to be exposing kids to things more so nowadays, because there are more kids than ever having mental health challenges. And I just worry about the fact of how they're going to cope with life, like real life issues beyond not getting the car they want or a new phone, or they got broken up with. And, like there's like real life adulting things. And so I just think that when people go through things like this, I have a lot of friends who have gone through breast cancer. The things their kids talk about are not the things that other people's kids talk about, because they're thinking about their mom who is metastatic, who will die at some point of this disease, and the appreciation they have for their parent, that she can get out of bed and take him to school. And it's different than people who some kids I've seen yelling at their parents. And I'm just like, this person's like parents about to be out of here in like a couple months or years, and your parent is here and you're yelling at them in a highly privileged community. You have a car, you're in the best school, you have the best iPhone. So I really think there's a important importance in balancing what kids are exposed to and how they're taught to understand what life really is about, and have compassion for others and themselves as well.
Yeah, and their place in the community. I think when we get to see like the example of volunteering, reading with someone in a nursing home or reading at a hospital, or even working at an animal shelter, what are the ways that kids can be a part of their community, see other people's struggles or other member of the community struggles, and learn from that, and then walk away feeling, wow, I'm so glad I was able to help in this situation where this person needed my help. And I think then that also humanizes needing help, because I think also kids, they're afraid to ask for help. There's this privilege, but then there's also this feeling of being unable to ask for help when they need it. And so giving them opportunities to be a helper shows them also how good it feels to be a helper, how nourishing it is, and how important it is. So then once they're going through things and they're needing help, and we're seeing as parents that they're maybe struggling with asking for help, many children do, taking that opportunity to say, remember when you did that thing for that person? How did you feel? And they tell you, oh, I felt great. Why are you not allowing other people to have that experience? You think you're taking something from someone, but by being there for someone, you're actually giving them a gift. They don't want you to be hurting, but it's a gift to be a part of helping you in that moment.
I think that's true. Also, I feel like it's important for parents to realize that as generations change, we have to work on how we communicate with our kids, right? Like the way my mom and my parents and I engage may not be how the child that you're having in this generation might need to be engaged. The things that they're experiencing are things we experience. So you cannot assume that the way that you think you should talk with them is how they're going to receive what you're saying. And so my daughter and I can share this. We're a huge proponent of therapy. We go to a therapist where she goes to the therapist, and then I go separately. Then we go together, because it enables her to share things that she can share on her own. Then I can share things that I can share as a mom. Then we go in together, and we can kind of therapist helps us to understand what where she's coming from, where I'm coming from, and then kind of bring us together. So I really think it's important that we learn how to talk to our kids and learn how to make them feel safe to communicate with us in a way that is relevant to this time in the world and what they're experiencing. So I feel like giving a child things is it's nice to have, but giving them the tools to cope with life is really even more powerful. And my daughter and I have really gotten better at communicating over the years because we've taken time to go to therapy together, to talk about things that are tough, to so I have to understand the world she's in right now. And I think I understand, but I don't really always I wasn't a 15-year-old in high school in Loudoun County. Like I don't know what that feels like, or 13-year-old or an 18-year-old. So it's important to kind of sit down and not assume that the way they're reacting is because of us or whatever. We have to be able to understand, like, what are you really saying, and am I saying what you need to say? So for example, she went through a bout where she had some challenges with just mental health stuff, and I would say to her, I would try to inspire her and empower her and give her inspirational quotes, and she's like, she would get mad at me. I'm like, well, I'm giving you this quote to help you feel empowered, and she would just be like mad, and I'm like, she never gets mad at me. What I learned
Mm.
was that when someone is going through a tough time and you're trying to empower them in that way, they may think that you're not really getting how bad they feel or how overwhelmed that
Mm.
emotion is. So over time, I learned that what I thought was empowering to her was actually disempowering her and making her feel like I didn't understand when that was my intention. So having therapy together helped me to understand her language at the time and tweak what I was saying to her to be able to relate to her on her level. And it changed a lot with our relationship for the better.
I'm so glad you had that experience and that she's been given those tools because she's going to use them her whole life. I think therapy should just be kind of a part of what everyone does, like going to the doctor, right?
It should
Every
be.
year. It really should be. We're not there yet, but maybe someday we will be. It makes me think the likeness to the experiences we have with patients, myself as a physician and through coaching and your work with patients. I think it's really easy to try to get out of that discomfort we feel when someone's going through something really hard that scares us and try to make them feel better with, for example, an empowering phrase or a story about what we went through, and it may just not land because in that moment, they're just wanting to be supported, seen, heard.
I'm glad you said that because people are really good about or bad about saying, someone might say, I had, I just got heard the words, you have breast cancer, or I just got a cancer diagnosis, and someone starts saying, my cousin had breast cancer too, and my aunt died of breast cancer, or when I had breast cancer, and it's like, whoa, like, I feel like people just want to be heard, and the art
Mm.
of listening is really important, without telling your own story, just listening to somebody and saying, I hear you, and then having them talk, and if they would say at some point, or I'll tend to ask, do you want another perspective or do you want some ideas? And if they say yes, listen, but it's really important to not give somebody like all the things that you've heard about. Have you tried this herb and that soap and this, doctor whatever's, tea and this like I feel like that is a really long lost art is to listen and not and give people a space to be, because when you're going through diagnosis, there's so many things that are in your on your mind. There are things that are just your whole life's upside down, and you need to have space to be able to just be and share. And having people be able to be on that journey with you requires a lot of empathy, a lot of hearing, and a lot of kind of taking themselves out of the equation. It's not about them, and it's really hard because you want to fix, you want to be able to make things better, and you can't always do that. And the best thing you can do at times is just to be present to somebody's experience and be able to sit with them and say, I hear you and I'm with you, and just being.
Yeah, that is so much what we need, especially from the people that are in our daily lives and our orbit, right? Because we don't need them to be our doctors. We don't need them to give us potentially, honestly, quite bad advice or even dangerous advice. Some people are trying to help and they may tell you, like you said, about some herb or something that's actually going to go against this medicine we're on and maybe cause bleeding issues and things that they don't know about, right? They may just be trying to help and do something that is not helpful. When it comes to what you do with the Tigerlily Foundation, talk about the ways that in an empowering and truly helpful and supportive way that you work with women facing breast cancer to truly help them on this journey and what that looks like in day-to-day practice?
So we have quite a few programs. The one that well, one of the ones I love them all, is our angel advocacy program. We train women who may not have had breast cancer yet, or who may be in treatment or post treatment, just women because they have breasts, to understand breast cancer and to understand all the things about family health history, diagnosis, risk reduction, healthy eating, biomarker testing, clinical trials, policy, and all the things. So they get trained to better understand. The cool thing about the training is that they're in this cohort with other women, between 5 to 15 women who also are in some way touched by breast cancer. So they're meeting a person that they have a person who may be a patient or not, who may be at risk, and then they get to this cohort of women that with the cohorts, other women who maybe have gone through this gone through this before or are in the thick of it, and they build community. So I've heard a lot of women may say that they have not met another Black woman or brown woman who's had breast cancer, and because people don't talk about it a lot, so they get in this cohort of women of angel advocates and the training, and they they build community, but it also builds empowerment, it builds resilience, it builds hope, and it helps them to maybe when they may be afraid of being on a treatment to adhere to the doctor's recommendations, which is really important. And then I would say, lastly, they learn things they never would have learned before. They learned to understand policy and how to advocate on the state or federal level. They learn about the importance of community engagement, importance of clinical trials. They learn the importance of using their Instagram, social media platforms for good to be able to share content that people can learn from. And so, women who may have thought, "Oh, I have breast cancer. I can't do this," who now is given a platform to use her voice to talk about policy change or advocate as part of a clinical trial program or be in a magazine or on a TV show or be in the community sharing health information. And so it's so transformational. We also have a program whereby we're training women to become patient navigators. So imagine a patient who's had the lived experience of breast cancer, who now this light keeps going up, who has had breast cancer as a lived experience and now is a trained navigator that can help someone navigate their breast cancer journey because she's gone through it and she understands what people need. And so that coming together is really powerful. And we partner with hospitals to do that, which is really amazing. So when you diagnose, they tend to give you like a packet of paper and say, here's some resources, call these people. And what do? You go home, put it down and get on Google. Well, besides, so this is going to mitigate that because you have a person who may say, like, instead of just having a packet, we partner with Tigerlily Foundation. Here, fill out this document. They're going to email you or call you back in 24 hours. And you get instant support from somebody who's walked down that journey. Um, we also have a program called the Hope Box program, where we send women a box after they've been diagnosed with beautiful things like blankets, scarves, hats, things like make them feel like in like a pill box and other beautiful things. But they get toolkits that help them navigate their breast cancer journey on what to ask their doctor, how to understand clinical trials and biomarker testing. We do a lot of events as well, and one event I love having every year, it's a patient-driven event called Beacon, our Beacon Symposium. The focus is on policy and how people can use their voices through telling their stories to advocate for policy change around better access for cancer patients. So those are things that are really powerful. And patients are a part of the curation of all that we do. Everything we do is all patient-driven. We are actually also launching a brunch series this year in December in New York. We'll be having a breast cancer brunch and we'll be hitting different cities across the country throughout next year. So having events where you're coming for a brunch event and you're coming for finest, and some women are patients or they've been touched by breast cancer in some way, or have a friend or a sister or they're a doctor or whatever, but they're in the community where they live, work, play, and pray, and they're coming together for a really cool girls brunch. And we discuss things like mental health or self-care or being a mom. And then we add in health information about breast health and clinical trials and whatever, or disease subtypes. So we make it what it is. You're living your life and you happen to have cancer. So we make sure that we embed the healthcare into all that we do, and in a way people can understand and digest, because a lot of this stuff as a doctor, it's hard to digest, right? These words like biomarker and subtype. So we kind of break it down and we have fun in the process. So those are among the things that we do. And again, the policy, clinical trials work, the angel advocacy work, navigation. We also have a research institute whereby we help patients utilize their voice to give people insights as to how they feel. So we kind of run the gamut of like all the way through our angel programming. We build a lot of healthcare content to make all this stuff that people think that's so complicated, which it is complicated, make it more palatable. We do community engagement, we do science and research work, we do insights work, and then we help people understand why trials are innovative and why they're important to help the next person coming up having had to have maybe have a longer life and or a better treatment option whenever things go to market.
That's amazing. You are doing so much. It's incredible. And I so appreciate, because we need people who are really on the front lines fighting for not just policy making and research and communicating these resources to patients, because you can have the best resources, but you mentioned social media, right? Everyone can do their part to, if you engage with something on social media or you find out through a flyer that there's something really amazing going on in your community, sharing it, right? Bringing out the megaphone and passing that along, because you never know who it's going to reach, who wouldn't have reached before, that would have an impact. And when you're speaking to all of these amazing resources you have for women with breast cancer, it also made me think about when you were really fighting to even have the acknowledgement of what you knew what was going on, right? You knew this was a problem. You could feel the lump and you were just fighting to get the diagnosis. I know that there are many women who, because of their personal experience or shared experience of people in their community or understanding of things, atrocities that have happened in our country in the past with regards to medicine, they may have a level of distrust with medicine that prevents them from even putting their foot in the door, for making that phone call. And there may be some fear and distrust that's a barrier between them getting what they need and what they deserve for care. What would you speak to the women who don't have a diagnosis yet, who maybe even don't have a lump, but they, as you said, they have breasts, right? Women with breasts are potentially going to experience this in their lifetime. What would you say to the person who has this feeling of distrust to try to make sure that things don't get missed with them, and encourage them to really be proactive with their breast health and making sure that they're getting the necessary screenings, they're going to see their doctor, and that they're getting the care that they need?
I would tell those women that your life matters and your life matters. And I've seen women, be afraid, but they might go skydiving. I'm like, you're afraid of a mammogram, but you went skydiving, or like, so it's like your body is all that you have. Like, whether you're paying for your rent or mortgage or school, whatever, like, you can spend money on all these different things, but if you don't spend time on your body and know your body enough, you don't get to have the things and the time you want to enjoy this life, this precious life that we have. So it's really important to know your body by doing breast exams and knowing how to touch it and feel it and see it. And what abnormalities look like. It's important to have a community of health. One of the things I love about Tiger Lily is that when the algorithm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok as well, it gives you more of what you engage with. So as our advocates put content out there, and they have other people they're getting involved with who are angels, they're getting more feed about healthcare. So like having people around you who remind you when you forgot to get your screening done, or reminds you about doing your monthly breast exam, or reminds you about the importance of eating clean and exercising is important. You're only as good as the 5 people that surround yourself with, right? I think that's a quote that people say a lot. So like,
Yeah.
who are you around? What are the things that are important to them? And at the end of the day, getting diagnosed at 31 was tough, but it taught me about who I was around and how I spent my time. I had a mom who was a nurse who taught me the importance of breast examinations. I had friends who were able to help me navigate my breast cancer journey. And I quickly found a tribe and I built my community, honestly, that helped me navigate it. So I would say know your body, speak up for your health. Don't back down if you're not sure about something, and have people around you who support you throughout your healthcare journey, because your health is your wealth. Your body is a vessel of your spirit and your soul. And so you have to put it first. You have to take care of it.
You do. And you truly do matter. That bears repeating. And that's not just in the big moments, it's in the small everyday things that you're doing for your health. And I know you have so many resources with so many different programs to help women become educated about the things they can do, learn about that follow through, and then give back and be a part of educating other women. So I think it's incredible. What are some policy related events that you have coming up?
So we have our Beacon Symposium I mentioned earlier. It's a patient-driven policy event where we bring together patients and highlight topics that impact them, including the Inflation Reduction Act, including the clinical trials modernization work, including things around the prescription drug affordability bills and so forth. So we kind of figure out what are the things that are really important to people in the world right now, 340B, for example, as well. And then we kind of convene patients to share what their thoughts are around the topic, including other stakeholders, and bring together policy leaders as well. And we work towards not just saying what the problem is, but creating solutions or discussing solutions around the problem. So I'm really a big proponent of, if there's a problem, how are you going to solve the problem? So we have a 1 day conference with patients around that issue called Beacon, and this year is being held on November, I think, on the 8th. It's coming up in just under a month in DC.
Wow. Well, that is really exciting. And I'm so grateful that you are doing that advocacy work and the policy work that is so necessary, especially right now. It's so easy, as we were discussing at the top, to feel disheartened and to disengage. But that's not the answer, and that's not what you're doing. You're out there advocating, doing the work. How can listeners get involved with that, either on November 8th or through other actions, so that they can support the work that you're doing?
So our website is Tigerlily, Tigerlily Foundation.org. We have a banner on the cover of the webpage about Beacon. Also under the events page. They can also find us on Instagram at Tigerlily_Foundation. Same thing on TikTok and on Facebook as same thing, Tiger Lily Foundation. So TigerLilyFoundation.org on Facebook. So on Instagram is Tigerlily_Foundation, and the website is the full name, as well as on Facebook and TikTok. But Beacon is a beautiful event. It's in its third year, and it's beautiful seeing patients utilizing their voices to make a difference and to advocate for change. Once they get involved in the conversation and the topic, they get trained to use their voices in ways that they wouldn't have done before. They start to do letter writing. They start going to speak at the nation's capital or at their state capital. They get involved in op-eds and get involved in helping a meeting with members of Congress, and so forth. And it's really beautiful seeing them get out there and use their stories to make change. So I would invite anybody who's watching this to please come to Beacon on the 8th. It's going to be a great event. We'll have some fun people there, and just it's powerful, inspirational, and you'll learn a lot as well.
Wow. Well, I wish I could come this year. I can't, but I can set my calendar for next year.
Please come next week.
Certainly.
We'd love to have you.
That that would be wonderful. I'd love to support you and the amazing work that you and the Tiger Lily Foundation are doing. That's incredible. Maimah, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing all of this incredible information, and for the advocacy work that you're doing, and for giving us the link so that myself and our listeners can work with you for this incredible cause. What would you tell our listeners, especially the women and the men, so they can remind the women in their lives to do a call to action for their breast health after listening to today's episode?
I would say your health is your wealth. Know your body. Do your breast exams every month. Find a good doctor. Um, get your screening annually and or mammography annually. But men in your lives, in women's lives, your woman is center of your household. So remind her if she forgets to do her exams monthly or annually. And I always say your body's a vessel of your spirit. So treat it wisely, put it first, and don't don't not take your life and your health seriously. You don't realize how fragile life is until you're not well. And that's one of the things cancer taught me. So just, be intentional with your life, put your health first, and be your own best advocate.
Thank you so much, Maimah, for being here and for the work you're doing at the Tigerlily Foundation. And thank you to our listeners. This has been a wonderful hour. If you have any questions, comments, please make sure to leave them on social media and engage, like Maimah was saying, with the cause. Make the reels, get involved. They would love to have you. Until next time, stay safe and take care, and make sure to do those breast exams. I'll talk to you soon.